Welcome to Iron Plane Presents.
And how about security? We talked about PCI compliance and mentioned security a little bit, but what about that in terms of optimization?
This is one of my favorite topics because Magento is you are self-hosting, or maybe not on site, but it's not a like a big commerce that you're paying someone else to do the security for you. You do need to keep Magento up to date, and that will give you the best chance of not getting hacked. So we have some internal tools we use, but you can even access these. Anyone listening to this can look up magereport.com or Sucuri site scan, and you can run a test on your site right now and see if there's any vulnerabilities, known vulnerabilities. So it will do kind of an external scan that looks for the weak spots. We use some other tools like Sansec has Ecomscan, which is actually installed on the server and always monitoring to check for against a list of known vulnerabilities. That has a bit more deeper insights because it can see things on the server that these external tools can't access. So vulnerability malware scanning is the place to start. Unfortunately, a lot of the Magento admins that I've been in do not have. They're not taking full advantage of just native features that are available to protect the site. So the admin is one of the particularly weak points. The admin panel where you're logging in and managing customers and orders and everything else. That admin URL, if you can get to your admin just by typing in domain.com/admin, well, security by obscurity is not the full solution, but you shouldn't have your admin at kind of a default domain like that. So we would typically put ours with admin underscore and then some random string of characters, just so it's a little obfuscated from anyone who might be crawling just to find an admin panel. Because if you can't get to the login page, then you can't try any brute force attack on it.
So it sounds like you're saying the admin panel, not that natively Magento is limited in the security capabilities. It's just that maybe
the configuration.
Yeah, the client is not making use of all of the native security features, and they need to actually know what to choose and how to implement it and configure it so that it is as secure as it should be.
Yeah, there are, with these Magento security updates, they do patch some other vulnerable URLs, but the Magento admin is generally the weak spot, and that can be because of passwords getting out, or it's just the known attack vector for a lot of attacks. And once you're in there, right, then you can do a lot of malicious things. But there are other configuration settings that are not utilized as often as they should be. In my opinion, it should be 100%. But so two-factor authentication. So anytime you log in, that you get a code on your phone, whether through text or through a Google Authenticator app. It's like a 6-digit rolling code if you're not familiar with that. So even if you have a username and a password, you can't get in without that other number. That's native now, I believe, for the last year. So that's something that could be enabled if it's not already. Making complex passwords, you can define in the Magento admin how complex you want them to be. Should it have uppercase, lowercase, special characters, and should those passwords expire after a set period of time? So I like to set every 90 days. So once you get close to that period, when you log in as an admin, they'll say, hey, your password's going to expire soon. Do you want to go ahead and set a new one? The last point in the Magento admin that I'd go into for now is just setting up proper roles and users. So there are some particularly vulnerable areas if you allow more users to have access to that, and that's the design, theme configuration settings and the store configuration. If you just have one role set up, which is an administrator, and that administrator has access to everything, well, then you're giving a lot more access than you need to. Typically, it's only a few people that need access to those areas. So if you restrict that to every other user and they can only log in and manage their marketing, they can just manage the pages and maybe promotions. And if they're just dealing with customer and order management, you just give them access to the sales and the customer areas. So setting up sort of more defined roles would be one of our next steps, and making sure that there's no users that should have their accounts disabled if they're no longer with the company or they just came in for a one-time thing. Actually, one of the new features, I think this just came out very recently. When you create a new user account or any existing customer or admin account, you can set when that user just automatically gets disabled. So if they are just coming in for a one-time job, when you set up that user, you can define the date right there when their access should be terminated, and you can easily turn it back on. It doesn't delete the account, but that's one thing that I think.
A lot of this sounds like best practices end up mitigating your risk. So like good user role management mitigates the risk of somebody doing something by accident or having access to something if they chose to be malicious. Updating Magento and keeping all of your code up to date mitigates the risk of potential security infractions. So all of these best practices, they may seem like a pain in the neck, but they all contribute to mitigating your business risk. And you know, if e-commerce is an important element of your business, it seems like all of that is very worthwhile.
Yeah, and there's one more point to add here, which is a tool that I love, Cloudflare. It does a lot of things, but the web application Firewall, if you're not familiar with Cloudflare, basically all your traffic, all the requests to your website run through Cloudflare before they reach your server. And they've got a standard library of firewall rules that you can enable. And this is blocking, hacking attempts, right? If you see someone if they see someone making a funny request to the website, they're trying to, well, I won't go too technical, but if it looks like bad traffic, and they've got their whole database of millions of websites using Cloudflare, so they know who the good IPs are and the bad IPs, so they can automatically block a lot of these. And then if they see even a good IP making a strange request, they can just block it with standard firewall rules. You can also set up custom firewall rules. I've seen a lot of attacks originating from Russia, Brazil, Ukraine. Yes, you might have good people shopping there, but if you're not shipping to those countries, if you're not selling to those countries, well, you can, in Cloudflare, you can just completely block that traffic. It takes about 5 minutes to set up. And that's also blocking all the bots that are, Yandex and some from China that are just eating up server resources, right? If you're not selling there, you don't need them, harvesting all the data on your website. So, so there's the standard rules and custom rules. So the custom rules, country blocking is a big one. If the Magento admin only needs to be accessed in your office, I know we're all working from home now, but maybe your company uses a VPN and you've got a standard IP address. Well, we can even, in addition to the, solid passwords that are rotating every 90 days, plus the two-factor authentication, you can also add a rule that says only this IP address can access the admin. So you've gone a step further in sort of preventing access, and not just the admin URL, but any other. There are this is kind of a standard set of other sensitive URLs that you could protect, which aren't usually used, but that some attacks have originated from before. So Cloudflare, it's $20 a month for a pro plan, and it's just Excellent. I recommend that to everybody. And they have a free plan too. With the free plan, you can't do your custom firewall rules, but actually, yeah, you can't do custom rules, but $20 a month.
For more insight on how to improve your e-commerce website, visit ironplane.com. Follow us on social media and like and subscribe below.